capacitates and empowers the different PDOs or the different clients under our care. And why is this important? Organizations like yours are built on processes, or at least they should be built on processes. They are a system of interconnected tasks, activities, and routines that guide employees or technology through decisions and procedures that produce products, services, or programs that are of value to customers or stakeholders. Simply put, organizations are a set of methods to get valuable things done. Some of those processes are simple, like conducting a meeting, issuing a receipt, or filing a leave. And some are quite complex, like how do you select your beneficiaries? How do you know which advocacy or which program to implement in your community? How do you do that particular advocacy? For example, your advocacy for the homeless, so that it could really benefit the beneficiaries in that particular context of your community. And then during times of rapid change, organizations need the ability to be able to change rapidly, to make adjustments on the fly, to shift products and services, to change quickly how work gets done, to shift strategies or priorities. History teaches us that crisis situations occur far more frequently than we anticipate. Organizational goals should not be to live to see another day, but actually to be able to resist and thrive during turbulent times. So what is resilience? It is the ability to withstand, recover, and bounce back amid stress, chaos, and the ever-changing circumstances. Resilient people don't dwell on failure, but rather acknowledge a situation, learn from their mistakes, to recover and move forward systematically. Resilience, like anything else in an organization, should be a process. It should be a well-designed, consistent, repeatable method that allows an organization or an individual or a community to bounce back. The good news is that resiliency is a skill. It's a skill that can be learned and improved with practice. Resilience is a muscle you build. So resiliency is very different from the following terms, and I'll go through that one by one. So to survive in uncertain environment and to foster future success, organizations must be able to handle all of the manifestations of the unexpected. Organizations need to develop a resilience capacity, which enables them to adequately react to unexpected events and to capitalize on events that could potentially threaten an organization's survival. And we see this importance when COVID-19 first struck us, and when the repeated and escalating effects of the typhoon also happened. Resilience differs from related constructs such as flexibility, agility, or robustness. Flexibility is the ability to rapidly adjust to environmental changes. Agility is the ability to quickly recognize opportunities, to change direction, and avoid collisions. Resilience includes an adaptation aspect and allows organizations to come out of a crisis stronger than before. This characteristic distinguishes resilience from robustness, which is defined as the ability of a system to maintain functions despite disruptions. Organizational resilience is the organization's ability to anticipate potential threats, to cope effectively with adverse events, and to adapt to changing conditions. So why do we train? We capacitate because capacity building is to draw strength from within. It will help you become resilient. And this is a saying often attributed to the Navy SEALs. You don't rise to the occasion, you sink to the level of your training. So at the end of the day, a well-capacitated organization will be able to maneuver and adapt to the demands and threats and changes brought about by the environment. So capacity building is whatever is needed to bring a nonprofit to the next level of operational, programmatic, financial, or organizational maturity so it may more effectively and efficiently advance its mission into the future. Capacity building is not a one-time effort to improve short-term effectiveness, but it is a continuous improvement strategy towards the creation of a sustainable and effective organization. It is, in other words, not just about the capacity of a nonprofit today. It is about the nonprofit's ability to deliver its mission effectively now and in the future. Capacity building is an investment in the effectiveness and future sustainability of a nonprofit or a PDO. We believe that capacity building is the all-important infrastructure that supports and shapes charitable nonprofits into forces for good. It enables social purpose organizations and their leaders to develop competencies and skills that can make them more effective and sustainable, thus increasing the potential for them to enrich lives and solve society's most intractable problems. When capacity building is successful, it strengthens the organization's ability to fulfill its mission over time, thereby having a positive impact on lives and communities. Now, who is involved in capacity building? So we have here what we call the capacity building ecosystem, composed of the community, different nonprofits, the different providers, also the different funders, the network connectors, and the foundations. The social sector has historically framed capacity building as something that only nonprofits receive from funders and outside parties. However, it is becoming clearer that all actors within the social ecosystem stand in need of capacity building. Like, for example, how can funders contribute more to your organization so that they could provide more impact? So even the funders need capacity building, your community needs capacity building, the network providers need capacity building, everybody in the ecosystem does. So while initial efforts focus on nonprofit individuals only, like the top level, like the board members and executive directors, later efforts focus on nonprofit institutions as a whole, a new vision of capacity building that must include all aspects of the social sector. The funders, the businesses, the management support organizations, networks, and government all stand to improve their effectiveness through a focused work on capacity building. Shown here is, you are very familiar with this already, and shown here is the philanthropic development system championed by Spring Rain. While this systematic model stays true, how philanthropy is supported by program management, how the funds are sourced can only be sustained based on how the funds are disbursed. How, like an investment, it grows in terms of impact these funds give to the beneficiaries of the organization, and how this impact is communicated to those who invested and believed in your potential to make a positive difference in the world. But from this system, we evolved to this, looking at the other pillars. So this is the SRG 6-pillar capacitation model, and Ms. Glenda, I think, was able to really describe and explain the different pillars under this model earlier. So the 6-pillar capacitation model understands that capacity related to understanding how a department fits into the organization, how each department is interrelated, and how an organization fits into its ecosystem. Related capacities include constituency or network analysis, issues or needs analysis. What are the needs of your constituencies? And what is your role in answering that need? And what is the role of others? It is analyzing where you can complement, collaborate, or specialize. Equally important in SRG is the capacity to respond to a bigger ecosystem. The ability to find and create shared value and collaborative and advocacy skills, and how to share leadership. That's why I've always mentioned this in several of our talks, in several of our conferences. What I find different from Spring Rain as opposed to other consulting companies, wherein the clients don't get to meet each other. The clients are treated as individual clients and they don't have any interactions. Here in Spring Rain, we stress on the importance of building an ecosystem, of working together, capitalizing on our strengths, filling each other's gaps or weaknesses so that we can provide greater impact. So, ayan. So, next slide. Sandali. So here in Spring Rain, this is how we do capacity building, the 4 elements of capacity building in Spring Rain Global. First is the needs assessment. And we do that when you are a new or being onboarded as a PDO. We first start with the orientation of what SRG is and what are the different services that SRG can provide. And then we make you answer a health assessment checklist so that we see where you are in terms of the different levels or the different outputs per pillar. So after you answer the health assessment checklist, we will make a very customized proposal to your organization on the type of training that you would need. This will be based also on what your priorities are, your funding needs, what advocacies would you like funded, would you need more help in training, would you need more help in financial planning, in program management. So we will customize this proposal according to what you have written down in your PDO health assessment checklist. And then once you have agreed to the proposal, we will go to the signing of the partnership agreement. So that's the next step, designing the intervention. And then 3 is implementation. So how do we implement? We have different types of trainings, like the boot camp, Thursdays with SRG, customized intensive trainings, and Project Sparta. We also have conferences. If in trainings, it's more of parang workshop type of how to be able to do the different outputs per pillar. So conferences naman po, you are given a bigger view of how the other organizations, especially worldwide, ano yung mga ginagawa nila in terms of philanthropy, in terms of leadership, and in terms of financial planning, so that our world gets enlarged. We get to see the larger perspective, and we get to learn from the experiences of other implementors. And then we also have coaching. Ito po yung pag na-train na kayo, alam nyo na po conceptually kung paano gagawin yung bawat outputs, like how to make a grant proposal, for example, or how to make your fundraising template or your resource generation plan. In the coaching, we will look at your outputs individually and try to suggest give our inputs on how this could be implemented, this could be improved, how could this be customized to the uniqueness of your organization. And then Ms. Glenda mentioned and talked about the Pledge Front, which is our PDO system software, which we hope would take away much of the clerical administrative tasks away from your staff, so that your staff can focus on the tasks that are more essential to your PDO. And then we also have different events and fundraising campaigns. I will go through that in more detail later. And another added service of SRG is our fund facilitation service. And I believe Ms. Glenda already stressed this and we'd stress it again now. SRG, as a company, we are a consulting company. We are in the business of capacitating and empowering organizations so that you could provide more impact to your beneficiaries and your communities. And fund facilitation is just an added service. What we want at the end of the day is that you will be able to be the one raising funds on your own and not be dependent on SRG or any other person or organization to be able to look for funds for you. We are teaching you how to be able to do that on your own because it's more sustainable that way. And then after the implementation is, of course, the continuous monitoring of activities, monitoring of your status. And this includes reporting of your activities or outputs, the submission and analysis of the data that you will be giving us, and the plotting of action points. So, and this is where I hope that after this discussion and when we go back to your PDOs next week, we will be seeing more and more PDOs sharing their data. Because without data, we won't be able to truly coach you, to truly plot with you what interventions would best work for your PDO if we are just doing it theoretically, nang hindi po namin nakikita kung anong situation nyo on the ground. So sana po, after this PDO directors meeting, when we go back to our PDOs, we will be more open to sharing and updating our data. So where we are, where are the PDOs in the SRG 6-pillar capacitation model? So just a quick run through of the different outputs per pillar. So for each pillar, like leadership and governance, program management development, philanthropy development, financial planning, database management, and ecosystem building, under each pillar po, meron niyang corresponding outputs. At kada outputs po, we look at different levels, like kung nagsisimula ka pa lang or regularly pinapractice mo na siya at ine-evaluate, and based on your evaluation, you improve on that output. So those are the different levels, and Ms. Glenda explained that earlier na po. So for leadership and governance, the different outputs are partnership agreement. So nakita nyo po, sinabi ko to kanina, pag onboarding po ang new PDO, we first orient, and then the health assessment, and then we send the proposal and the partnership agreement, and then that's the last level is when it is signed. So for every output po, ganun din, may different levels din po sila. So nakikita niyo po, hindi lang enough na makapag-craft, kunwari, ng vision, mission, at slogan. That's still level 2. What is important po for the sustainability of the PDO is that after it has been approved, which is level 3, nire-revisit nyo rin po ang inyong vision, mission, at slogan, or vision, mission, goals nyo. Kasi kailangan po nating malaman kung na-achieve nyo na po siya, kailangan palitan natin, or baka nag-change ang direction yung inyong organization. So even if meron na kayong vision mission ngayon, we will only get to level 4. If it means that it's a document that is alive, it is an output that is alive, and is changing with the times, and is being reviewed actively by the organization. Ganun din po sa mga list of advocacies, programs, and initial funding needs, because what you thought about maybe 10 years ago might no longer be applicable today. So that's why you need to revisit it regularly. And then the ambassadors. So alam niyo na po ito because dinaanan na po ito ni Ms. Glenda kanina. So as to where our PDOs are, if you would see po that the different outputs are those po na iba-ibang color. So if you would see, mas marami pa rin po ang PDOs natin. Majority of our PDOs are still in level 1. And I think Ms. Glenda mentioned that we have 140 PDOs in our ecosystem, but those that we are able to track closely are just around, ayan po, less than 30 PDOs. So we hope that after this meeting and after PDO see the value of our 6-pillar capacitation model, a value that has been praised actually by the PCNC because I think it helped po one of our PDOs in their accreditation. So meron po siyang, may value po siya. So makikita niyo po dito na most of our PDOs are still struggling in level 1 and level 2. So wala pa po tayo, parang nasa startup pa rin lang po, karamihan din talaga sa atin. In program development and management, so the end goal here in program development would be to be able to, because we are not in the business of teaching you how to implement your programs. We believe in SRG na kayo as implementors, kayo na nakababad sa community, alam nyo po how best to implement your programs. What we are just doing in this pillar is for you to be able to capture the beauty of what you are doing. Yung pong mga processes of what you are doing, i-capture nyo lang po siya in a document that will be understood by your potential partners, by your potential funders. And that's why po our focus for program development is for you to be able to put all the activities that you are doing, all the processes that you are doing, all the impact you would like to make in your community into a grant proposal format that is easily understood by people outside of your organization, na hindi lang po kayo sa organization nyo ang nakakaintindi. So, and in program management naman po, what we want, lalo na po marami po sa atin pag startup NGO, startup PDO, startup social purpose organization, most of us are contented with dole-outs. Except for those of us na mas established na po ang kanilang mga foundations. Usually po talaga nagsisimula sa dole-outs. So in program management naman po, we are teaching po the PDOs to monitor and evaluate if everything, all the interventions that they are doing in their community are truly bearing fruit. And then to put those observations, those stories into a format then that would be understood by your donors and partners. So like in leadership and governance, we would see here also that in terms of the monitoring of the PDOs, we are mostly still at level 1. Onti pa lang po yung nakakapagsulat talaga na kaabot dun sa grant proposal level. And then, dun naman po sa program management side, and this is what we hope we would be able to work on really and focus on in the future. Sana po mas dumami sa mga PDOs natin would be able to report their impact. Always, what we see in the reports would be how many funds that you raised, how many donors that you have. And we are always missing the part of, if these are the funds raised, how many people benefited? Yun po yung palagi nating kulang. At makikita nyo po dun sa yellow at red na color, nasa level 1 pa lang po talaga. Wala pa po ang masyadong nakakagawa how they are monitoring the interventions they are doing, how they are sharing the good stories of the programs that they are implementing, the good fruits, the good results of their programs to their network. So this is very important because yun nga po, katulad po ng sinabi ko, yung philanthropy po natin is closely related also to program development and management. Our donors would like to see what happened to the money they invested in you. When they donate to you, they are investing to the community through you. And they want to see a return on their investment. And we cannot give them that story, that return on their investment, if we don't have this impact monitoring and impact evaluation. So sana po this is something that we could work on together. And sana makulayan na at dumami na po ang kulay sa level 2, 3, and 4. So sa philanthropy naman po, ito yung donation admin policies, establishing the different donation portals, how you would accept the donations, your fundraising plan, your resource generation plan, so that you would have a guide of the different activities that you will be doing throughout the year on how you would meet your funding goals for the year. And then every resource generation plan needs a communications and marketing strategy. Hello po? Is there a question? Sige po, I'll continue na lang po, and then in case there is a question, you could put it in the chat box, and later in the Q&A, we will answer them. And then PDO branding is also important. Establishment of the website, social media platforms, the brochure, the different videos for your advocacy. So, yeah. So dito naman po, ganun din, kalat-kalat din po ang achievement ng ating mga PDOs. What we have noticed is, for example, in the donation portal, madami po ang nasa level 3. So they have bank accounts and but onti lang po yung color green yun, donation portals. Onti lang yung merong way for them to receive online donations, and onti lang rin po ang may way for them to receive internationally donations from overseas. So there are no mechanism yet for them to receive donations overseas. Sa resource generation plan po, may mangilan-gilan na nasa level 3 na at makikita niyo po siya dito, level 3, yung color gray. Hindi po yung isang gray, sorry, bakit ganito parehong kulay? Yung isang gray ay video, yung isang gray na mas mapandak po na nasa level 3. So yun po yung resource generation plan. Onti lang sa mga PDOs, kahit na po ang kulit-kulit ko nang nangihingi, what is your plan for the year? What are your different strategies to raise funds for the year? Onti lang yung gumagawa ng plan. We would like to stress that it is important for you to make a plan, lalo na po if you only have 1 staff or 2 staff, and if the PDO director is also busy with other activities or is far from the staff. We have instances where the PDO director is not located in the same place where the staff is or are. So the resource generation plan would guide your staff on what to do. Would tell them that if there is an event in April, these are the things I need to do in March. If 10 million is my funding need, overall funding goal for the year, this is how I will chop up the 10 million into different strategies, into different activities, so that I would reach the 10 million. So sana po we see more and more PDOs doing that. And then In the website, as Ms. Glenda mentioned earlier, onti pa lang po ang may website. The social media platforms, it is not enough that you post. It is not enough that you post. It is not also enough that you post regularly. You would only get to level 4 and level 5 of social media platforms if you are analyzing if the posts that you are making are actually giving you the results that you want. What is your reason for having that Facebook page, for example? Is it to create awareness or is it to raise funds? If it is to create awareness, then you have to study back end your social media post. Anong post ang nagpa-viral? Anong post ang sinishare? Anong post ang maraming engagement? Because that would fit the awareness purpose of your social media platform. If it is to raise funds, then you study also what kind of platforms encourages people to give to your PDO or to volunteer to your PDO. So look at, you have to also study, evaluate what you are posting, not just to post but in the sake of posting, but to study po ano yung Facebook post nyo na may results. At yun yung uulit-ulitin nyo at gagaya-gayahin nyo po palagi. So that social media platform and then brochure, it is electronic now. It is a way for you to tell people in a nutshell about who you are. The videos, they go hand in hand with the brochure. And the videos nowadays, especially if it's for social media, they don't have to be made in a fancy manner. We have trainings po on how to do video. We have trainings on how to do solicitation letters, so that how to communicate, so that the style of communicating is more emotional, more fundraising driven. And this is based also from the study of other organizations on what moves people to act. So, ayan po. Sa solicitation letter, palagi po yan, pag na-achieve nyo na po yung level 5, syempre mag-new program po kayo, new strategy po kayo, new campaign kayo, ulit-ulit tayo sa level 1 because you will draft again the solicitation letter, you will identify again who to send it to, you will distribute it again, and then you will evaluate if it's successful or not. So may mga ano po dito, meron pong mga outputs po dito na after mag-level 5, pag may bagong strategy, ulit po ulit tayo sa level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 because philanthropy po is a cycle and you cannot say that you are done. We will always go back to the level, but we need to be able po to do that in a more sustainable manner na palagi. Umiikot po siya palagi. So another way po that we are measuring the outputs of our PDOs in terms of their level in philanthropy development is of course how you are raising funds. So in the year-on-year na ano po ng PDO, so last year po meron tayong 119 million but only 14 PDO submitted their data. Kaya ito nga po talaga yung pakiusap namin. Madaming PDOs na active but yet not all PDOs are submitting data, and I believe for the 2021, hindi yan December 2021. Some of the PDOs are submitting data ng February pa lang o January 2021 pa, March 2022 na po yun ngayon. So hindi pa rin po siya accurate representation of how many funds PDOs were able to raise last year. So again, we really have a problem in SRG with regards to submission of updated data so that we could truly navigate po paano tayo mag-i-improve as an organization and as an ecosystem. So in financial planning po, Ms. Glenda already walked you through the different phases for financial planning and the different outputs under financial plan. So kung dun po sa mga naunang pillars ay kulang po tayo sa financial planning, ito rin po kailangan nating habulin. And we understand, Dr. Glenda and Ms. Ann, who is heading the financial planning pillar, understands that there might be some hesitancy on the part of PDOs to share their overall financial health. But yun po, this is a work in progress, and we hope that more and more PDOs would value how they would be able to grow the assets that they have right now so that they will be able to manage any risks and adversities in the future. So this is really a work in progress, and we hope that more PDOs would learn to appreciate the financial planning pillar. In database management, So ito po is paggawa ng inyong directory. We have from prospects, from donor data, from your directory of donors, from your directory of prospects, from your directory of beneficiaries. And then we also have as outputs the enrollment of your staff in Sparta, the enrollment of your PDO in Pledgefront, and updating us with in the PDO directory. Hindi lang po, 2 minutes. Dito din po, same story as with the other pillars. Madami po sa atin ang mataas doon po sa part ng donor database. So madami po nakakapag-submit naman ng donor database. But doon po sa beneficiary database hanggang orientation part pa lang of how to do a beneficiary database. Wala pa po talaga sa implementation of the beneficiary database. Like, if I raised funds, who does it go to? Wala pa rin po tayo sa ganong part. And then, onti pa rin lang po ang nasa pledge front, onti pa rin lang ang nagma-maximize ng Sparta, which is sad because Sparta is a good opportunity. We are given 300 slots for scholarship in Sparta, and data is the new oil. Your PDO staff would be learning a lot if they would maximize this opportunity, which would end this year. So after this year po, tapos na ang Project Sparta. So sana po makahabol pa ang mga staff po natin sa pag-enroll po dito. And you could connect with Ms. Kleinid so that you'd be able to enroll in Sparta. Sa ecosystem building naman po, this is how we work together as a full ecosystem. So this includes the making of collective grant proposals, but also our participation in the different platforms and events and portals of Spring Rain Global. So here po, admittedly, because this is connected also to our progress in the program pillar, kung tayo po ay nahihirapan pa lang sa paggawa natin ng grant proposal for our own organization, it also follows na for ecosystem, yung collective proposal natin as an advocacy, nahihirapan pa rin po tayo. So we hope po that this would also be addressed soon. Marami po sa atin though is ang participation in ecosystem events, platforms, and portals. And later po, I would go through the different events that we have in SRG and how we can further maximize these different events and platforms that SRG is providing to our PDOs. So how do we move forward knowing po the different levels of the PDOs, where the levels of the PDOs are? So mostly po, if you would see in all the pillars, it's consistent. We are mostly in level 1 and level 2. So how do we move forward? So in our coaching and consultancy, there will be 2 goals. One is to set up your PDO office. And the next goal would be to meet your funding needs or your funding goals. So for setting up of the office, in your meeting next week, when you meet again with your pillar, with the different pillar consultants, so that's me for philanthropy, si Ms. Presa for program, si Ms. Kleinid for database, and then Ms. Anne for finance, and then Ms. Glenda and Ms. Nicole for leadership and governance, and then so when you meet with us next week, we hope that we will go through the different levels of each output again with the head pillar consultant. So let's verify po ulit. Tama ba na nilagay po namin kayo sa level 1 for this particular output, or baka dapat nasa level 5 na kayo? If you say that you are in level 5, please give us parang uso po ngayon yung resibo. Sa campaign po, palagi sinasabi, nasan ang resibo mo na you are in level 5. So please show us your receipt or your proof that you are indeed in level 5. Like if you're saying that I have a website, then let's show us your website. Show us the different sections of your website. How is the website helping your PDO in creating awareness and in raising funds? So yun po, go through the levels of each output again with the head pillar consultant. And then you set the priorities and determine the time frame. So ano yung mga gusto nyo pong ma-achieve this year? Like you say na gusto ko for this year makapagsimula kami ng financial planning. Gusto ko this year maaral lahat ng assets at makapag-propose sa amin ang SRG on how we could mitigate risk on this and this aspects. So if those are your priorities for this year, i-identify po natin siya per pillar and we determine the time frame kung kailan natin siya kayang i-commit na gawin. So together with your pillar consultants, tanungin natin, kaya ba ito in 1 month? Kaya ba to in 2 months? So we set commitments. For meeting your funding goals, Ms. Glenda before mentioned about the 3 ways that PDOs can meet their immediate fundraising goals. And it should be a mixture of this. Your grants under the program pillar. So we look for grant funding. Your everyday fundraising or your philanthropy, it's connecting with individual, organizational, corporate donors. And then we have your financial planning, your endowment funds, your matching grants, your social enterprises would fall under financial planning. So for each of these strategies, for each of these 3 ways, you plot your targets. Like for grants, for example, I want to raise 50 million for grants for this year. For philanthropy, how much would you like to raise for this year? And so with financial planning. And then when you have set down your targets, you have to plot the different activities under each. And together po, that would create your resource generation plan. If you would like to go through this in more detail, we could have a separate one-on-one session regarding this. And then po, once na po, for both of the goals, setting up the office and meeting the funding goals, what is important as next steps would be to submit your data and your monthly activities regularly and on time. Dahil nag-set po tayo ng priority, nag-set po tayo ng target, ang goal po sana ni Spring Rain, when we have the monthly or bi-monthly check or meeting, read data and activities undergone to fulfill the priorities, sasabihin ni PDO, under the setting up of the office, ito po ang mga activities na ginawa namin for the month of March. Under meeting your funding goals, ito po, nagkaroon po kami ng Facebook campaign, nagkaroon po kami ng concert, nagpadala po kami ng ganito kadaming solicitation letter, etc. So yun po sana yung pag-uusapan natin when we meet together or as a group, together in our one-on-one coaching. So when you give us this data regarding, so ayun na yung activities nyo, ilan naman po yung pumasok na donor sa inyo, ilang tao ang sinulatan ninyo, ilan ang pumasok na donations, ilan ang nagsabing decline, yun po sana para po we could strategize. Paano po natin mamimit yung funding goals nyo or yung PDO office setup goals nyo po. And then moving forward to, so that we will have more structured, more predictable meetings, we will be giving you a PDO meeting feedback form that you would submit to us after every meeting. And this is for, so that we can track your progress. Ano po ba yung nangyari sa meeting na yon? Gaano katagal siya? Sino ang pillar na ka-meeting ninyo? Ano yung naging particular agenda nyo for that day? And matrack natin po, dahil isa-set nyo rin siya, ano yung next action points nyo na pwede nating balikan when we meet again the next month. So we will have that na po. And then this will also be our way to see how we can improve also our services to you, because you will evaluate also how we were able to navigate with you your particular situation when we have that meeting. So ayun po, for coaching and consultancy, yan po ang next steps. Sa training naman po, ang ating next so yun lang po, before that po ay estimated timeline. So estimated timeline lang po, especially if you are a startup PDO, how long would it take for you to establish the system? So these are for startup PDOs. For leadership and governance, ang pinaka-importante po would be the partnership agreement, with SRG, because that's our document that says that we are engaged in a relationship together, that we are your consultants and you are our client, and that we are working towards a particular goal. And then PDO orientation, establish your PDO org structure kasi kailangan po talaga may tao kayo na mag-i-implement ng different activities in your office. We hope that you could also have a strategic planning session of the PDO. Where do you want to go? Also, you set your vision, mission, and goals. You identify your advocacies. Who are your different ambassadors for each advocacies? And what are the initial funding needs that you have per advocacy? And you craft your administrative policies. So usually po, it would take 2 to 3 months for leadership and governance. Under program development and management, so after we have identified your advocacies, the ambassadors for each advocacy or the program implementers for each advocacy would be the ones writing down the logical framework, the budget, or the funding needs according to the different activities set in the logical framework, and then finally a grant proposal. It is also the ambassadors who would be able to do the fund utilization report. Ito, ganito kadami ang pumasok na pera for this advocacy, and then itong mga perang pumasok, dito siya napunta for these activities, for these beneficiaries. The impact monitoring and evaluation framework for the different advocacies, and this would take roughly 3 months. So for philanthropy development, it would take 2 to 3 months to set up. But as mentioned po, this will be ongoing throughout the year. But setting up, making your resource generation plan, making your communications and marketing strategy, crafting your admin policies, establishing your donation portals, making your different collaterals, and for the really new PDOs launching their PDO office so that people would know that they are now existing and are ready, open for business, that would take 2 to 3 months to set up. Database management, 2 to 3 months to undergo all the training, to be really onboarded with Pledge Front, to understand the different templates, to initially encode all of your prospects, all of your donors, all of your beneficiaries in the respective databases. So that would take 2 to 3 months to set up. But like philanthropy, this is ongoing throughout the year because you need to generate data on your donors and your beneficiaries on a more regular basis. For financial planning, just for the initial financial assessment of the PDO, so that we will be able to propose to you a financial sustainability plan, that would take 2 to 3 months. And then the linking with the different PDOs working on the same advocacies, that is an ongoing service or ongoing timeline with SRG. So for the trainings, we have first the boot camp, which is a 6-day crash course on how to set up your philanthropic development office for fulfillment of mission, attainment of objectives, and long-term sustainability of your organization. So ito po ino-offer natin talaga, lalo na po for new PDOs and for PDOs with new staff na gusto po nilang, kunwari po nagkaroon ng staff turnover, para po yung staff nyo po ay maintindihan ang system, maintindihan yung trabaho sa organization nila, sa organization that they are now part of. We encourage your new staff to attend also the boot camp. So it is, we will have the 3rd boot camp in April, and we will have a special boot camp for dioceses and parishes that is specifically on the synod, and that will be in May. So sana po we will see you and your new staff in the boot camp. So it is given 1 day each week, usually on a Thursday, and each session po would focus on a particular pillar. So dito po, crash course siya. How do you do philanthropy development? How do you do financial planning? How do you do program development and management, leadership and governance, database management, and ecosystem building? And at the end of this, we all of our PDO graduates would be presenting or making a pitch on a particular advocacy or on a particular program, and they are incorporating the different elements of the 6 pillars in their pitches. And what is different from the bootcamp as opposed to other trainings on, I'm sure there are many organizations giving trainings on leadership, giving trainings on program, on philanthropy, etc. But Spring Rain is different because po isang bootcamp lang ito for everything, and it is different too because in other training programs, after you graduate, after you finish your session, tapos na. Bahala ka nang i-implement yan. Bahala ka nang i-apply yan sa organization mo. But in Spring Rain, we promise that the bootcamp is just the beginning of a coaching or consultancy relationship with you that will last for at least 12 months. And then other trainings that we have in SRG, we have the Thursdays with SRG session, which is weekly half-day training sessions held via Zoom on different aspects under the SRG 6-pillar capacitation model. So dito po, kunwari po for philanthropy, dito po natin ginagawa yung sessions natin like how to write solicitation letters, how to make compelling videos, how to make the resource generation plan, how to make virtual events or do virtual fundraising. Dito po siya ginagawa sa mga weekly half-day training sessions nyo. Tapos, ano po yan? Nagsa-cycle po yan. So, in the 6 weeks, 1 pillar per week, and then magsa-cycle po ulit ng susunod na linggo, ibang pillar naman po ulit. And then the Sparta that I've mentioned before, scholarship grants to 300 PDO staff on data science and analytics and management. This would run only until end of the year. So if you are not yet enrolled, or if you are enrolled like me and are not really taking their courses seriously, opo, masama po ako. Sige po, magseseryoso na po tayo sa Sparta at mas mag-aaral na tayo kasi hanggang end of the year na lang po sila. So para tayong lahat ay makagraduate at maging data scientists and data managers. Customized, and then in the trainings also, if you think that kasi po yung dinidiscuss sa bootcamp at dinidiscuss sa Thursdays with SRG, very generic po siya, very general, and if you would like a more customized, more in-depth, more intensive training session for your office or for your staff, or if you would like regular trainings, for example, on how to do face-to-face fundraising, we could do so depending on the unique situation for your organization. If you would like specific trainings on how to do the log frame, how to do the grant proposal, yun po, and all of the different pillars, they have more intensive trainings po under each pillar, like how to make your strategic plan or your succession plan. Kasama rin po yun. So you tell us what kind of training that you need, and we will tailor fit it for your particular organization. And then Ms. Glenda mentioned the Pledge Front, which is a software that Spring Rain together with Alphatech developed to help manage not just your donors and prospect database, but linking it also with your development as a PDO. And then we go to the different events, campaigns, and platforms of SRG. Isa pa po sa madalas na misconception about SRG. So madalas pong unang misconception sa amin is that we are a funder. So masali po yung mga organizations in Spring Rain because they thought that Spring Rain will be the one giving the money, or Spring Rain will be the one looking funds for them. That's the first misconception. The second misconception about Spring Rain is that we are an event organizer. So sa event organizing po, ang kaya po nagpapa-events, nagpapa-campaign din si Spring Rain because we see the events and the campaigns as the opportunity for PDOs to apply the 6 pillars and raise funds for their advocacy. They say that people donate when there's a deadline, and your event could serve as that deadline. Like when you make it open-ended, like for example, a feeding program, and they can choose to donate whatever part of the year. Baka po makalimutan nila. But when you are rallying them towards something like a particular date, there is a sense of urgency to your fundraising. And then we also do events as a service because it will be less expensive and less work for your PDO to just join these collective events rather than when you organize events on your own. And also because we are doing it together as different organizations, we bring with us together all our respective constituencies, all our respective communities. And there is strength in numbers. Doing together amplifies our voice, making it easier for people to recognize and to hear about us, to know us. So when we have our events and campaigns or platforms, SRG provides all the assistance that they could give to the PDOs. Like we give you your templates for your letterheads and your posters, your templates for your solicitation letters, your sample spills if you would make telephone calls or text messages, your sample spills if you would like to announce your events or your campaigns in parish or mass announcements. And then we also do one-on-one coaching with the involved PDOs on how to sequence your event or how to design your event, and also the different solicitation activities that you would have on your own so that you could maximize these events. And then we also provide tech support and even event management templates. So these are the different events that we've had last year. We had the SRG Cares 2021, which aimed to raise funds for India when India had its surge, because we had our PDO partners in India, Renee Trust and Brothers of the Sacred Heart. And then we have the 500 gifts for 500 years, which is a vocation, which helped in the vocation and formation advocacies of the different PDOs in SRG. And we have also our Lazada donation platform. This year, we will be having the search for the Spring Rain Global Voice. The showcases of the different PDOs would start next week, April 1, 2, 8, and 9. The grand finals will be on April 22. So what does this event involve? It involves PDOs mounting their own shows or mounting their own showcases so that people would get to know their organization and their advocacy. There will be an activity where the PDO directors of the participating organizations would be pitching to the donors and partners of SRG. We will open up an online donation portal. We provide coaching, a grant coaching on your singer on how to sing and how to perform. And we also have coaching for the PDO director and staff on how to do the fundraising and marketing communications components of this advocacy. And then the contest proper. So like all the other previous events of SRG, this is not just a contest. This is not just an event, but it is a way for you to fundraise, to raise awareness and to raise funds for your organization. In terms of platforms, we are in the process of putting this up so that through the Spring Rain Global website, because as I mentioned po earlier, dun po sa donation portals na part, sa levels po ng PDOs natin, sa donation portal na part, marami po tayong PDOs na wala pa doon sa, if they have a way for overseas donors to connect with them, or wala pa rin po silang way for their donors to give virtually to them. And because we are in a increasingly virtual world, increasingly mobile world, we have decided that in the Spring Rain Global website, there will be a portal for them to choose the different PDO partners, to choose the advocacy they wish to support from among the PDO partners, and to donate po via this website. And this website will be connected to credit cards, to bank accounts, to 7-Eleven, to M. Louvillier, to different platforms po. In just one click, a donor can choose to donate in the manner that is more convenient for them. So some data lang po on the 500 gifts or 500 years. From the 12 PDOs that participated, we had more PDOs participating, I think 14 or 15 PDOs, but only 12 PDOs submitted. They were able to collect 3.14 million and in peso and $2,000 with pledges of 408,000 pesos. And then from the number of potential donors that they approached, and then you can see here na mataas po ang average nyo of conversion. Kasi from 6,500 potential donors, ang na-convert nyo po to actually donate to you ay nasa 20%. Ang global average po for potential versus closed donor is nasa 7 to 10%. So, ibig sabihin po, mataas yung conversion rate nyo. So, if we will write to more donors, we will have more chances of, if we will write to more potential donors, we will have greater chances to get actual donations. For SRG Cares 2021, we are able to raise more than 200,000 that we were able to turn over to India. And then for our Lazada platform, we were able to raise more than 400,000 as of January 7, 2022. And then ang pinakamadami po na nagdo-donate is for the care for the elderly. In terms po of amount, ang pinaka-fast moving na amount po natin sa Lazada ay yung piso na donation voucher natin. So from the piso po, umabot tayo ng 400,000. So what can we improve on in terms of events, campaigns, and platforms? First, we need to improve on our data collection, which will serve as our content for communications and marketing. In the pre-campaign, we need to clearly identify what particular program under what particular advocacy that you are implementing would benefit from this event or from this campaign. Who are the specific beneficiaries that you are targeting to help? How many beneficiaries? You could say their age, you could say their location, and then how much are you targeting? How much is the total funding need for that? But for this event, how much are you targeting to raise? So how much amount you want to raise for this particular campaign, and where will this fund go? In the mid and post-campaign report, we still need your data, like the number of donors who participated and the amount that you were able to generate, and the number of beneficiaries that you were able to help. Was the target reached? If not, how many funds to go? So sana po in the future when we do our events for SRG Voice, which is our event na po this April, sana we could clearly identify if the events that we are doing, if the campaigns that we are doing as one PDO ecosystem was indeed contributing to the number of beneficiaries that we are helping. And then just a reminder, yung iba po kasi ang nagiging misconception din, sasali ako dyan, pero wala na akong gagawin. Sasali ako dyan, papakantahin ko ang aking singer, but I will not do anything na to support my singer. Please remember that events and platforms will not raise funds on their own. You need to be able to communicate and promote them. And then po sa fund facilitation, as a service, as an added service of SRG, we have 3 ways of doing fund facilitation. First is that we research the different funding agencies. We match your PDO to the funding agency which has an open requirement, who are accepting proposals. And then some of you may have already received emails po, yung mga nakapaggawa na po ng grant proposal and yung pong may mga match na advocacies dun sa mga funders po na naaral na po ni Spring Rain. We are sending emails to you on what are the requirements, when are the deadlines, so that you could comply with this. And then we assist you in the submission. And then 2 other ways that we are doing fund facilitation is one is through the networks of SRG, like Ms. Glenda mentioned, AVPN, Wings, GIIN, and SRG US, which is more a relationship building type because our strategy in SRG is that we do not connect with a donor only once, but since the view of these donors would be investing in your organization. So it's really about building relationships. And then another way that we are linking you to possible funders is through the linkages of our global philanthropy ambassadors. And one of our newest ambassadors you were able to meet this morning from SRG US, Mr. Robert. And then what happens after we have successful funding? So yun po, in terms of the levels of our PDOs, so meron naman po tayong PDOs na nakatanggap successful funding na din based on the ecosystem and based on yung ating pong mga events like the Global Sleep Out that we were able to facilitate funds already for them. Some of them have been introduced to funders or have been given the requirements of the different match funders to them. So going back to all of this, why we are doing this as an organization, this is Spring Rain Global's Theory of Change. We believe that the problem that we see in our greater community is that social issues continue to exist like poverty, homelessness, hunger, the lack of access to education and healthcare, the degradation of the environment, etc. And that because these problems continue to exist, we see an opportunity to be able to open up the civic space and encourage more players to help in addressing these issues and achieving social development goals. Usually po kasi when there is funding available, palagi po siyang nabibigay dun lang sa more established players. Palagi lang siyang dun nabibigay dun sa mga big brands. What we want to see in SRG na problem is that marami po sa atin ang small players working directly with the grassroots, but because we are not recognized, we are hindered also in implementing the change that we want to happen. So how do we build up your brand so that you will also be recognized by other funders and that you would be able to increase your impact? We do that through capacitation, providing trainings, workshops, exposures, and mentoring, linking you with funders, and linking you with other development players acting on similar advocacies so that we could enable collaboration and possible scaling up of impact. From these inputs, we hope that the outputs would be the creation of Philanthropic Development Office within the organization and the creation of an ecosystem of good composed of implementers and funders. And in the end, all these efforts would translate to, in the short term, organizations involved in development work are given training and funding to improve and sustain their work so that more people will be helped. And in the longer term, a greater variety of players actively working and collaborating to solve development issues at the grassroots level. If there are more people working together to solve development issues, there will be a higher chance for the SDGs to be achieved and felt. We feel that in SRG, we are contributing to number 17 of the SDG, which is partnership for the goals, which says that SDGs can only be realized with strong global partnerships and cooperation. A successful development agenda requires inclusive partnerships at the global, regional, national, and local levels, built upon principles and values and upon a shared vision and shared goals, placing people and planet at the center. So ayun lang po, tayo pong lahat ay mga liwanag sa dilim. Kailangan po natin paniwalaan na kaya natin ito. So maraming salamat po and good afternoon everyone.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kel. Okay, so we move on to the next topic, which is the capacitation setting of performance matrix. So allow me to share my screen. Hold on. So good afternoon once again. I will be sharing to you the capacitation setting of the performance matrix, both for Spring Rain Global and the PDO. So based on the sharing of Ms. Kiel, we can now assess, or we can now check on the things na kailangan natin ma-improve or naging challenge natin sa PDO natin. And I know po one of the challenges that our PDOs are facing is human capital. So before I share on the matrix or the measures of a successful PDO, let me just share to you how important the human capital in an organization. So may I ask if you agree with me that human capital is really, really important in an organization. So if you could write number 1 in the chat box, if you agree with me that human capital is important in an organization. Okay. So thank you. Thank you so much. So may nakita na po ako na nag-chat ng mga number 1 sa chat box. So thank you po, and I believe na one of the important office is the human resource office in every organization. Some would say that one of the success of an organization are the people working, and people are our best assets. So human capital is unique and differs from any other capital. It is needed for organizations to achieve goals, develop, and remain innovative. Companies or organizations can invest in human capital, for example, through education and training, enabling improved levels of quality and productivity. So, ayan po. That's why kanina when Ms. Glenda shared about the 6 pillars, I'll share again. 6 pillars, the 6-pillar capacitation model. This is the system that Spring Rain Global will coach to the PDOs. And first pillar is the leadership and governance. Dito po papasok ang human resource. As mentioned din po, for leadership and governance, dito po papasok si ambassadors, yung PDO organizational structure, the human resource capital training, the manual, and all needed information po na makapacitate ang isang PDO staff or yung PDO team. With the 6 pillars mentioned, we have program management and development, philanthropy development, financial planning, database management, and ecosystem. This entails output. Each pillar entails output. Kung wala pong tao na mag-manage nito or mag-handle po nito, or if the PDO director will not appoint or will not empower your team, wala po kaming ma-receive na output, and we cannot assess on the level that Spring Rain Global will help you. So it is really important po na may tao talaga or may staff po, or if si PDO director is really busy, kung pwede po may deputy director na mag-handle or will be immersed po or will attend trainings and meetings with Spring Rain Global. Okay. Now let me just share this again for the PDO organizational structure. In every company po, in every organization, organizational chart is really important. Dito po natin makikita yung accountability, yung process flow, and kung ano po ang need na mga task or responsibilities na isang organization. So for the PDO organizational chart, so we have the philanthropic director and we have the deputy director. So as mentioned, kung medyo busy po si philanthropic director or si PDO director, it is really advisable po na to have a deputy director and could really give their time to attend or to attend the training or coachings with Spring Rain. And then on the other side, we have Spring Rain Global. So for the program development office, So dito po, we will be seeing advocacy ambassadors. So the role of the advocacy ambassadors is really important. Dito po papasok yung funding needs, all about the advocacy. So si ambassador po will be a great help to the program development office if the ambassador is active or nag-i-immerse talaga siya for the program development office to be successful or really be implemented. Kasi for Spring Rain po, we will be looking at your advocacies and programs. Diyan po tayo magsisimula. We identify your advocacies, we identify your programs, and diyan po papasok si ambassador. Ang kanyang knowledge po or input about that specific advocacy. And on the other side, we have the Philanthropic Development Office. So we have, this is the ideal structure po, but I believe may mga limitations po sa ating PDO na we have one staff lang po and handling more task like or nagmumultitask po. So sorry. So for the PDO, this is the ideal structure. We have admin and finance, marketing, database, communications, events, and research and development. So I would like to commend po yung mga PDO director na may staff po talaga sila. It may not be complete po for all these positions, but I commend those PDO or PDO directors na nag-invest talaga on human capital. And I also commend the PDO staff na kahit kayo lang po mag-isa or kayo lang dalawa, you manage to deliver on the other departments or the other tasks that you need to deliver. Like for example po, admin and finance and marketing, isang tao lang siya, and then database and communications, one person. So it's just a matter of time management so that you could deliver what is expected of that office. So ngayon, let me share the measures of a successful PDO, 100% of a perfect score. So while I'm sharing this, I would like to encourage our PDO directors, if you could, sa mind nyo, na you could rate or grade yourself kung asa na po kayo. For if makita nyo po na ang success ng inyong PDO as of now. So we start with the governance in relation to leadership in program and philanthropy management. So this is 20%. So we will be looking at the effort or your effort po, kung talaga bang more on kayo sa ganito na aspect or may needed pa po na wala po sa lens natin na kailangan nating balikan. So for the governance in relation to leadership in program and philanthropy management, this is 20%, and this is the systems implementation. So systems implementation means the application of the 6-pillar capacitation model. Kung basing sa nasabi ni Ms. Kiel kanina, na we will be looking at the reports that you have submitted to us, and makikita namin kung asang level na kayo. So if for leadership and governance, if you're still on level 1 or 2, maybe we could revisit para we could progress. And then on the other pillars din po, kung which level na nakapag-situate yung PDO ninyo. So this is the systems implementation, the application of the 6-pillar capacitation model, and ensuring that the system is in place. And second, we have the stewardship and accountability. This is still 20%. Reports on operations and advocacy and impact. And as mentioned din kanina, kaya po sometimes makulit kami humihingi ng report sa inyo kasi we want to see we want to guide you po, we want to coach you kung asa na kayo in that specific pillar or kabuuan na ng situation ng inyong PDO. Kasi our coaching or the coaching of the consultants will based on the reports that you have submitted to us. So kung ang reports nyo po is hindi po siya on time or hindi po siya recent na data or updated na data, limited lang din po yung ma-coach ng mga consultants or pillar heads ng SRG. And for the PDO directors din po, I would like to emphasize or remind if we could empower our staff na kung pwede po mag-submit din po sila sa amin on time ng report kasi we are doing our monthly report, monthly evaluation of each PDOs, but if the reports submitted to us, again as mentioned by Ms. Kiel kanina, na kung hindi siya recent like for 2021, may mga natatanggap pa kami na as of February pa siya. So we cannot see the progress and kayo din po mako-question yon na bakit andito pa kami. So that's the importance of the report and the updated report that you will be submitting to Spring Rain. But I believe the reports are also, hindi lang po siya requirement ni Spring Rain, but reports are really important kahit po sa inyong congregation or organization. Kasi basing sa data, dyan po makikita kung nag-progress kayo or what are the things that we need to improve. And then next is the financial management. So financial plan leading to investment planning and funding goals are met. This is still 20%, and sustainability of the PDO and capacity to engage with SRG. So in this part, this is the financial planning part. So this is 20%, and dito po natin mapaplat yung funding strategies, check on the revenue streams, and maximizing social enterprise. Alam ko po may mga ibang PDOs na may social enterprise. So in this financial management, makikita po natin na may mga other revenue streams pa kayo or may mga social enterprise na baka po hindi natin na-maximize. So with the help of Spring Rain and kung ma-address natin na we need to allocate our time for this, makikita po natin na ang dami pa pala. May mga hindi pa po may mga bagay pa po na hindi natin na natutukan or kailangan pa po ng more effort and time para po ma-maximize iyon. And then next is human resource management on the team well-trained for development work. Still, this is for systems implementation and 20%. So as mentioned, human resource management is really important. And ayun, if the PDO directors could empower or really parang encourage all your ambassadors, your staff to attend to trainings with SRG. As mentioned kanina, may mga Thursdays with SRG tayo, may bootcamp, lahat na po, may mga capacitation trainings si Spring Rain na ino-offer to all the PDOs that you could maximize and be able to learn more kung ano po ang dapat natin gawin. And then the human resource management would come up with this performance matrix kasi po hindi po pwede na si PDO staff nag-a-attend lang ng meeting tas pag si PDO director nagtanong kung ano yung nangyari sa meeting, anong nangyari sa coaching, hindi po makasagot or hindi po parang comprehensive ang mabigay ni PDO staff. So this is very important na after the training or after the coaching, the PDO director or the deputy director should also check or evaluate the PDO staff kung may natutunan ba siya and na-apply niya din sa PDO. And then we have the database management. So this is still 20%. So objective data for strategic directions. So ito po for the database management, again, this is very important kasi po dito din po natin makikita kung how much funds we were able to raise for that specific month, and the strategies or the strategies or the coachings that you need for database. And then for database management, this is also one of the factors na tinitingnan po ni Spring Rain kasi dun po namin ma-check kung nag-improve pa po talaga or we need another training or coaching kasi po may iba na hindi pa
Miss Nicole? Miss Nicole, we seem to have lost the connection of Miss Nicole. So pa-standby lang po as she reconnects. Thank you.
Hello, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, Miss.
Okay, thank you. I'm so sorry. My internet connection is bad. So ayan po for database management. We encourage po if you could submit to us updated and recent database report. And next, matrix na tinitingnan natin, or for this is for Spring Rain na din, measure of a successful pillar consultant. As mentioned din kanina ni Ms. Kel, na may PDO feedback form po kami na ibibigay sa mga sa PDOs to our clients para po malaman din namin, especially sa HR ni Spring Rain, kung ano po ang areas or what are the things that a consultant or the pillar consultant should improve and coach or train to our PDOs. So first, is the planning sessions with the PDOs. So this is still 20%. So basis of agenda on meetings and manage expectations. So part of the planning sessions is the orientation and the filling up of the PDO health assessment form. And dito din po malalaman namin kung ano ang situation ng isang PDO or isang organization na gusto niyang maging part ni Spring Rain. So dito po yung parang needs assessment ng isang organization, or if you're an existing PDO na would want to know more about ano na po ang innovations or services ni Spring Rain, dito po siya sa planning sessions, 20%. So the pillar consultant should make sure that the basis of the agenda on meetings are well prepared, and we were able to address what are the needs of the PDO during the planning sessions. And the next is the training sessions with the PDOs. So this is still 20%. So capacitation of the PDOs need per pillar. So after the planning sessions, dun po namin malalaman na ito pala ang need ni PDOA. So after that, once we have parang prepared everything or na tailor fit na po kung anong need ng na training ninyo for that specific pillar, we will now have the pillar consultant prepare their modules, prepare what the things that the pillar consultant should do during the training sessions. And then another is the coaching sessions with the PDOs. This is still 20%. Coach to ensure application on trainings rendered, resonate on events, ecosystem donor meetings, SRG platforms, and PDO platforms. So ayan po, this is now the application of the training sessions. Step events. We are doing the ecosystem events to see if our coaching or our training with the PDOs are being applied. One of the training sessions po with you with the PDOs is like enhancing your website, polishing your website. So when you participate in the ecosystem events, we would see or revisit kung sa website nyo na-apply nyo ba na may updated na data doon, na-update nyo ba yung events or ano po ang nagiging fundraising strategies ninyo. So that's the coaching sessions with the PDOs, the application of what you have learned from the training session. So the pillar consultant would make sure that the training sessions with the PDOs are being applied. And the next is the progress monitoring with PDOs. This is still 20%. Scoreboard, planning, training, and coaching matrix with evaluation for the PDO and the consultant. So after that, we will now check on the progress monitoring. We can now compare before the training and the coaching, si PDO is andito pa po na parang level. So during the progress monitoring, makikita na po na nag-level 2 na si PDO. So doon po unti-unti siya na nagpo-progress. And meaning to say that the pillar consultant is successful sa kanyang training or coaching with the PDOs kasi po nagpo-progress si PDO. And then lastly is the evaluation with PDOs. So this is still 20%. The ultimate end goal, output based on the plan. So after we have trained, coached, and did the progress monitoring, so may evaluation na. And in the evaluation, dun po makikita lahat na what are the things that we need to improve, ano po yung naging achievement natin, and what are the next steps para po patuloy pa rin. And our ultimate goal is to achieve the objectives of the PDO and be able to really raise funds and help more beneficiaries. So yan po ang makikita natin for the evaluation with the PDOs na si pillar consultant, SRG pillar consultant, na si PDO was able to hit their goal or was able to achieve their objectives. So ito po, and we will also check the efficiency, effectiveness, and the productivity. So for efficiency, if you were able to manage the combination of the 5 pillars of consulting guide per PDO, and effectiveness, targets are accomplished, trainings and raise funds per PDO. And lastly is the productivity. So kami po as mentioned din, sorry, hold on. So again, we will also check with the Spring Rain Global will also check the efficiency, effectiveness, and productivity of our consultants. And then let me just share this po. This is the process of the job analysis. Job analysis is really important, especially when setting our task or specific task to that position or to that office. So first, for the job analysis, we also did this for Spring Rain. Okay? Para lang po maano siya na job analysis is really looking at our productivity, or if successful ba kami sa ginagawa namin or sa aming coaching with the PDO. So that's why we also did our own job analysis. And let me just share this to you para po makatulong din naman. So first step is the organization analysis. So we analyze ano po ang situation ni PDO or ng isang organization, and selection of jobs to be analyzed. So each office or each department, we really need to check on the things that needs focus or needs our attention, kung saan po ano po yung kailangan ng isang office or department. And then collection of job analysis data and preparation of job description. So after you have collated po the data, after you did the pre-assessment, sa amin po, we did our pre-assessment. We had this template na we wrote what's our task daily, weekly, monthly, and annually. So yan po ang ginawa namin. And then with the HR team of Spring Rain, we analyzed ano po talaga ang expectations ng isang position or ng isang office. And then after that, we prepare the job description. Job description is really important. Isa-isa po yan, makikita kung ano po talagang expected ng isang office or isang position ng organization or ng PDO. And then lastly is preparation of job specification. So ayun po, human capital is really important, but lahat po ng ginagawa or lahat po ng training or coaching na ina-attend or ina-attend ninyo or na-offer ni Spring Rain, kung wala po tayong performance matrix, wala po tayong performance evaluation, it will be a big challenge po kung hindi po natin i-evaluate kung asa na po tayo ngayon or kung ano po ang situation natin ngayon. Kung wala po tayong performance matrix, or we will not capacitate our staff or empower our ambassadors, wala po kaming makukuha po na parang data or report ninyo if you will not deliver or do what is expected. So I hope that we are now open to really look on investing on human capital, kahit na po to start up lang may alam ko po may mga PDOs na 2 staff pa lang kasi they're looking at kaya pa naman kasi nagmo-multitask. So I just hope po na matutukan talaga yung human capital ng ng PDO, and most especially the empowerment na binibigay ni PDO director to their deputy director and the ambassadors. It would really help make the PDO successful kung nagtutulungan lahat and empowered ang ambassadors, and of course the deputy director and the staff. So I'll leave you with this quote: "Great vision without great people is irrelevant." This is by Jim Collins. So thank you po for listening, and I hope that you learned something today. So thank you once again. We will have a 5-minute coffee break. Please be back after 5 minutes. Hi, everyone. Are you back?
Yes po.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you po. So we proceed.
Ada yung
So we proceed with the presentation of the SRG mode of membership, training, coaching, and ecosystem building services, or the business. And I'll call back Dr. Glenda Miro Antonio.
Thank you, Nicole. Can you hear me?
Yes, Miss Lens.
Okay. Thank you so much, Nicole and Ms. Kel. So at this point in time, I know that many of you are also asking us on how do we go about it if we are going to be part of your ecosystem. And since dumadami na po din yung organizations under our care, we want to be more predictable about what is it that you really need from us and what is it that you would need help on, and what would be the time frame of the allocation of our attention and focus to your PDOs, and how do you get yourself ready in terms of really making success, progress in your PDO. So let me just share my screen lang to situate everybody on that part again. So Spring Rain Global's trust is to grow the mission for sustainability and root us stronger to our ecosystem of change. So we want to envision with you that we will come up with a sustainable ecosystem among donors and donees through the service of financial planning and philanthropy. And since we consider ourselves as a social enterprise, we want to coach different organizations, religious congregations, nonprofits, and other organizations in Asia, Africa, and beyond towards sustainability. So we have invited several different consultants in our team to really guide you and guide everyone to its expertise, some of which would be within the SRG ecosystem, and some would be outside in the network of our partnerships such as AVPN, Global Impact Investing Network, and the like. So since that would entail a serious partnership and engagement, we have crafted and designed a way so that you will understand how are you going to put a space on investing on trainings and investing on human capital, or investing on having someone to have with you or coached you along the way. So we, of course, wanted to go through the grassroots of helping the community, and in the process, help the PDO so that it would resonate to helping the community, right? So we want to break that cycle. We want to put systemic change in our focus. We want you to create your own philanthropic landscape. We want to contribute to help your organization really help human development, so that professionalizing the nonprofit organization, especially the church, would be our main mission. So more and more people will align their resources, and alam nyo na po, yung tithings and all and stewardship will be more will grow and be more inspiring for everyone. I have quite asked a lot of people on what's their motivation of helping, what's their motivation of giving to their parish, what's their motivation of giving on a regular basis without being asked. And many of their answers would end up with saying we want to understand what are the advocacies that our parish or diocese is doing. And we know that even if I do have 10 pesos every month or 50 pesos a month, together with so many other people who will be giving 50 pesos, we will be giving it to our advocacy. So the question then lies with making people understand how they can be of support to your PDO office. And Kel was mentioning about this a while ago, but I just want to reiterate and stress that the problems are really overwhelming. And when you end up with one project, you think a donor, but you will be expanding more beneficiaries on that project. That's why you have to continuously make it as a circular process. I mean, it has to be circular in a sense na after one gets done, there will be more, and some funders would want to increase their level of giving. They want to increase the partnership. They want to understand you more. And I think obviously we have seen success stories also from our PDOs able to get there. Now, if you do not also look at this as a serious matter and it will be like an option, wala din siyang mangyayari. So we came up with something in a little bit. Ms. Nicole will be sharing to you how you will get yourselves part of the capacitation and the training program so that you will get yourself started immediately, or maybe review back where you are. So our patented framework for growing mission is something that will really, we believe that this model will really be more sustainable because it addresses leadership challenges, it addresses succession, it addresses the need for ecosystem environment and not competition. And at the same time, you will be more inspiring if you really move your network or yung mga tao ninyo moving forward. The 6-pillar capacitation model and coaching it and training you with it is helpful to get your PDO started. Pero ayaw din naman namin na palagi na lang orientation, and then hindi nagpo-progress. So we want to understand whether what is really the concern. Is it a problem on human capital or hindi natutunan yung ng mabilis and all the other different sorts of challenges that may come our way. But then the needs, the funding goals are fixed. So therefore we have to do something about it. Now, I'd like to just emphasize the value of investment. Investing in trainings and investing in human capital is the way moving forward. Being good steward to many things, no? Ito yung kailangan that PDO directors has to open their minds, especially on addressing the need for human capital. Whether your people starts with volunteers or your people starts with isa lang or dalawa, but please take note na you have to look into your numbers. Look into the numbers and look into your ROI, and that would explain everything. Kasi po, God taught us to also be balanced in the way we are looking at sustainability, either coming from your end or coming from the end of the people who are working with you. So I was learning this from fundraising school, and I studied 14 years ago in Indiana University. Ang mahal-mahal talaga. If you really will professionalize it, each subject costs you so much, and the travels and everything else. So it's really, for me, was an investment. Now, investing in knowledge and implementing those knowledge because you do have coaches is something that would really level you up into your direction. So we have transferred technology, so you don't have to go out and fly and pay all those dollars, big, huge amount of investment to study it yourself and be it on your own. Even if you are going to access it online, still you have to pay a bigger, higher cost. And brought the technology here in the Philippines so that, and even applied even outside the country, so that we can do good and be better and professional enough, so more and more funders will still keep their trust in the Philippines as far as doing the professional way of philanthropy and fundraising. Kasi many of fundraisers, they end up volunteers, but I I am not saying I am not for volunteers. Volunteers, it's good. But if you're talking about getting funding for 10 million, 15 million, I think it's about time that we have to put that right mindset of, I have to do my investment. I should invest. First is time. Time is an investment. How much time you spend for an hour a day would signify that you will be expecting a return of that moment of time that you have spent, especially when it comes to trainings. Now, that should be the proper mindset of the PDO directors that I would encourage in terms of when you engaged with consultants like Spring Rain, or when you engaged with other people who will be helping you capacitate you, or even your staff and the people that you are working with. So that's what we call return of, it's measuring the economic value of the human capital, which is for me not even measurable. Kasi po, the exponential impact of investing in people and getting those people resonate the impact of the trainings that they are getting. But there's also still a question as well on getting the right people for the work. So there's a computation of that. I purposely share this because in the business model of sustainability, we are teaching you to treat the PDO as an enterprise. Otherwise, if you want just to be the receiving end and don't want to invest time and people and resources, then it will drag too long or matatagalan talaga. So we would encourage na, since that's what we are seeing, since gusto niyo po na you want to level up and scale up, then you might as well do what is necessary. So the formula to calculate for human capital is revenue minus non-human capital expense over your human capital expense. Just to figure out na if you hire one person or two persons or pay 500,000 overhead and you're getting 3 million and 5 million of funding, dapat ko computin nyo yun. Bakit po? That's the impact of a possibility for hiring one person. That's why in the progress of philanthropic development offices all over the world, if they start with 2, they always end up growing. And the biggest number of human capital that I have witnessed is the one in National University Singapore, philanthropic development office nila, or their development office in Singapore, which started with 4 people. And then they ended up, after siguro mga 12 years yon nung pumunta ako doon, they end up with close to almost 100 people working in their development office. And they were getting close to around 300 to 600 million range of Singaporean dollar in fundraising. So there's still the economics of scale because there is work that has to be done at the onset. But we're slowly understanding it, and some of the donors that you might want to ask support for human capital or access to startups of your PDOs are also asking what's your leadership design when it comes to getting people work and getting people get their work done. But we will be happy to journey with you in this endeavor kasi po it is a people scale relationship industry, meaning we have to invest in people talking to people, and hindi siya pwedeng by the way, let's do something in the PDO kasi the PDO is also very vital. If you look at it as an option to really grow in terms of getting access to funding, then it is something that you may want to consider working on. But it begins with the commitment on the mindset of investing on the human capital. I asked permission from San Carlos, and after this, I will be sharing with you. I'll be calling Father Alwen to join me, and maybe I will ask him some few questions before I turn over to Ms. Nicole. San Carlos, or Diocese of San Carlos, or the Stewardship Philanthropic Development Office of San Carlos started mga 4 years ago. and this it